The human should not have been inside the royal city of Vierx Prime. Everyone knew that. Humans were enemies. Humans were invaders. Humans were hunted on sight across this sector of space. The war between Earth and the Vierx Empire had burned for 7 long years, and no human had ever walked into the heart of the alien capital and lived to tell the story. Yet here he was. Elias Mercer stood alone on the wide crystal plaza before the palace gates. His boots were cracked. His armor was scorched and patched together with wires and alien fabric. Dried blood stained one sleeve. Some of it was his, some of it was not. His rifle hung empty on his back, its power cell long dead. He did not raise his hands, but he did not reach for any weapon either, because he knew it would not matter. A sharp command echoed across the plaza, spoken in the clicking tones of the Vierx language. In an instant, dozens of guards moved. They were tall, armored, and elegant in a terrifying way. Their energy weapons locked onto the human from every direction. Blue targeting lights crawled over his chest, his head, his heart. Elias felt the familiar calm settle in his bones. So this is how it ends, he thought. He had always assumed he would die far from home. Most human soldiers did. On broken moons, burning ships, or nameless planets swallowed by war. Dying in front of an alien palace was new, but not surprising. What surprised the guards was that the human did not beg. He did not shout. He did not run. He simply stood there, breathing slowly, his tired eyes fixed on the massive palace doors ahead. "Identify yourself," a guard demanded through a translator drone. Elias lifted his chin. Elias Mercer, human, no rank anymore. The guards shifted. No rank meant nothing to them. It meant less than nothing. Another command rang out, sharper this time. The weapons hummed louder, charging. Elias knew the sound. He had heard it 1,000 times on battlefields. He closed his eyes for a brief moment. Behind him, something moved. Soft footsteps, careful, too light to be a guard. "Wait," a small voice said. The word was spoken in broken trade tongue. It trembled, but it was clear. The guards hesitated. Their weapons did not lower, but the firing command did not come. Elias opened his eyes. 2 figures stepped out from behind him. They were small by Vierx standards. Young. Their skin shimmered with faint colors that shifted with emotion, a trait common among royal bloodlines. One held onto the torn fabric of Elias' armor with thin fingers. The other stood straighter, trying to be brave, even though fear flickered across her skin in pale ripples. Gasps spread through the guards. Whispers followed. "No," someone said. "That is not possible." Elias did not turn around. He did not need to. He knew exactly who stood behind him. The palace doors began to open. They did not slide quietly. They parted with deep, echoing force, as if the building itself were reacting. Light spilled out onto the plaza, followed by a wave of silence so heavy it pressed down on every living being present. The alien queen stepped forward. She was taller than any guard, her presence overwhelming without a single weapon in her hands. Her crown was grown, not forged, formed from living crystal bonded to her skull. Her eyes were ancient, sharp, and cold with the authority of an entire empire. She took one look at the human surrounded by her guards and raised a clawed hand. "Hold," she commanded. Every weapon froze in place. The queen stepped closer, her gaze never leaving Elias. "A human dares to stand before my gates," she said slowly. "Unchained, unbroken, explain this." Elias swallowed, his throat was dry. "I came to return what was taken," he said, her eyes narrowed. "You return nothing but your corpse." Then her gaze shifted. She saw movement behind him, she saw color, she saw familiar shapes. The queen froze, the world seemed to stop with her. Her breath caught, sharp and sudden. Her crown glowed faintly as her emotions surged beyond control. Slowly, as if afraid her eyes were lying to her, she stepped closer. The 2 young aliens stepped fully into the light. "Mother," one of them said. The sound shattered the plaza. The queen's knees almost buckled. Guards cried out in shock. Several weapons powered down without command. A few soldiers dropped to one knee, overcome by instinct and disbelief. "My daughters," the queen whispered. They were thinner than she remembered. Their ceremonial markings were gone, replaced by scars and rough travel bands. One limped slightly. Both looked older, hardened by fear and survival. Alive. The queen crossed the distance in a blur. She knelt before them, ignoring everything else, and gathered them into her arms. Her composure broke. Tears shimmered across her skin in bright, uncontrolled waves. "I searched every system," she said, voice shaking. "I burned fleets, I broke worlds." The older daughter pressed her face against the queen's chest. "We know," she said softly. The queen held them tightly, then slowly looked up. Her gaze locked onto Elia's. The plaza went deadly quiet. "You," she said. "Human." Elia's finally turned. He met her eyes without flinching, though his heart hammered in his chest. "You brought them here," the queen said. It was not a question. "Yes," Elias replied. The guards shifted again. Tension returned, sharp and dangerous. "Why," the queen asked, rising to her full height, "is a human not already dead for standing so close to my blood?" Elias took a breath. "Because I kept them alive when no one else could." The younger princess tightened her grip on his armor. "He did," she said quickly. "He protected us." The queen looked down at her daughters, then back at Elias. "From what?" "From everything," Elias said simply. Silence stretched. The queen studied him, his injuries, his empty weapon, the way he stood between her guards and her children without even thinking about it. "You crossed war lines," she said. "You entered forbidden space. You walked into my city knowing you would die." "Yes," Elias said again. "Why?" He hesitated. Images flashed through his mind. A crashed transport burning in a jungle of glass trees, screams, alien mercenaries laughing as they hunted survivors, two terrified children hiding beneath wreckage, waiting to be found by monsters. "Because leaving them would have been wrong," he said. Some of the guards shifted uncomfortably. The translator drones hummed softly, carrying his words to every corner of the plaza. "You expect mercy?" the queen asked. "No," Elias replied. "I expect nothing." The queen turned to her daughters. "Is this true?" she asked gently. They nodded, both of them. "He carried us when we were sick," one said. "He shared his food." "He fought for us," the other added, "even when he was hurt." The queen closed her eyes. When she opened them again, the fire in her gaze was no longer aimed at the human. "Lower your weapons," she commanded. One by one, the guards obeyed. Elias exhaled for the first time in what felt like hours. "This does not erase the war," the queen said, her voice carrying across the plaza. "It does not forgive your species." She stepped closer to Elias until they stood face to face. "But today," she continued, "you are not my enemy." Her daughters moved to stand beside him. And for the first time since the war began, a human stood alive in the heart of the alien empire, while the galaxy held its breath. It broke slowly, like ice cracking under weight. Whispers moved through the plaza. Guards looked at one another, unsure, afraid to speak. The queen stood still, her daughters beside her, her eyes locked on the human who should not have lived this long. Elias felt the shift immediately. The weapons were lowered, but danger had not left. It had only changed shape. "Take them inside," the queen said at last, her voice steady again. "All of them." A few guards hesitated. The queen's gaze snapped toward them, sharp and absolute. Now they moved. The palace doors opened wider, revealing long halls of light and crystal. Elias walked between two guards, his steps slow, his body screaming with exhaustion. The princesses stayed close to him, as if afraid he might disappear if they let go. No one tried to separate them. No one dared. As they entered the palace, Elias felt the weight of 1,000 eyes. Nobles, advisors, soldiers, servants, word had already spread faster than sound. A human in the royal hall. The lost daughters returned. Impossible things walking side by side. The doors closed behind them. The queen led them into a circular chamber with a smooth floor that reflected light like water. This was not a prison room. That alone unsettled Elias more than chains would have. "Leave us," the queen commanded. "All of us?" An advisor asked carefully. The queen did not turn. All, one by one, they left. Guards sealed the chamber. Silence returned, thicker than before. The queen turned slowly. "You will speak," she said to Elias. "You will tell me everything from the beginning." Elias nodded. "Yes." She gestured toward the center of the room. "Sit." "You can barely stand." Only then did he realize how much he was shaking. His legs gave out as he lowered himself to the floor. The princesses sat beside him without hesitation. The queen remained standing. "Start," she said. Elias took a breath. The transport was hit near the border systems, not military, refugee class. It went down on a jungle moon. The queen's jaw tightened. She knew that ship. She had sent fleets to find it. She had found only wreckage and death. "I was part of a scouting unit," Elias continued. "We were tracking mercenary signals. We found the crash site." His voice remained calm, but his hands clenched slowly. Most passengers were already dead. The younger princess lowered her head. "I heard voices," Elias said. "Not human." He looked at the queen. "I followed the sound." The room stayed silent. Even the walls seemed to listen. "They were hiding," Elias said. "Your daughters, injured, terrified. Mercenaries were hunting survivors for bounty." The older princess's skin darkened with remembered fear. "I fought them," Elias said. "I got the girls out." "Alone?" the queen asked. "Yes." She studied him closely. "Humans abandon wounded enemies on the battlefield," she said. "I have seen it." Elias met her gaze. "So do Vyark's soldiers." The queen did not deny it. "What happened after?" she asked. "The jungle," Elias said. "Poisonous plants, predators. We moved at night. I used my armor filters for them." "You could have left," the queen said quietly. "Yes, but you did not." "No." The queen walked slowly around them. "You had no orders. No reward. No promise of survival." "That one was clear," Elias said. For the first time, something like confusion crossed the queen's face. The younger princess looked up. "He told us stories," she said suddenly, "about Earth." Elias blinked. "I." "You said your oceans are blue," she continued, "and that your sky changes colors." The queen turned to him sharply. "You spoke of your world to my children." "They were scared," Elias said simply. "Talking helped." The older princess nodded. "When he was hurt, he still walked first," she said. "He told us to stay behind him." The queen stopped pacing. "How many days?" she asked. 32, Elias replied. The queen's breath caught. "No food left," Elias continued. "No signal. We rationed water. I carried them when they couldn't walk." "And you came here," the queen said, "to the one place where you would be killed." "Yes. Why not contact your people?" "I did," Elias said. "They told me extraction was impossible." The room felt colder. "So you chose my world over your own," the queen said. "I chose the kids," Elias corrected. Silence returned, heavier than before. The queen turned away and stood before a tall window. Beyond it, the city stretched endlessly, alive and bright. An empire she ruled with absolute force. An empire that had failed to save its own blood. Behind her, Elias waited. "I declared total war when they were taken," the queen said slowly. "I authorized actions that burned entire systems." She turned back. "Do you know how many humans died because of that?" Elias swallowed. "Yes." "And still you stand here." "Yes." "Unarmed." "Yes." The queen closed her eyes for a moment. When she opened them, her voice was quieter. "You have placed me in an impossible position, human." "I'm sorry," Elias said. She almost laughed. Almost. A sharp sound cut through the room, an alert tone. The queen's eyes snapped upward. "What is it?" A voice echoed through the chamber. "Emergency council session requested. Multiple houses present, demanding explanation." The queen's expression hardened. "They know," she said. "Of course they do." She turned to Elias. "You are now the center of a storm you cannot imagine." Elias nodded. "I figured. Some will demand your execution," she continued. "Others will demand answers." Some will see you as a weapon. And you, Elias asked. The queen looked at her daughters. They will not touch you, she said. Not yet, she signaled the air. Guards entered, cautious but respectful. Prepare medical care, the queen ordered. For the human. The guards froze. For the human, one asked. Yes, she said sharply. He collapses, he dies, and so does any chance of truth. The guards bowed and moved quickly. The princesses stood when Elias tried to rise. He swayed. Easy, the older one said. I'm fine, Elias muttered, then nearly fell. The queen watched this silently. As the guards led Elias toward a side chamber, the queen spoke again. Human, he turned. You are not a prisoner, she said, but you are not free. He nodded. That's fair. Her daughters moved closer to her. You will rest, the queen continued. Tomorrow you will face my council. Elias paused, and after that, the queen met his eyes. That depends on how strong your truth is. He gave a tired half-smile. It's all I've got. As the doors closed behind him, the queen looked down at her daughters and held them close. For the first time since their disappearance, she allowed herself to believe they were truly home. Outside the chamber, across the palace, alarms whispered through halls of power. The war had not ended, but it had changed direction. Soft, white light filtered through the walls of the chamber, adjusting slowly as his eyes opened. The bed beneath him was warm and strangely comfortable. For a moment he forgot where he was. Then he remembered the palace. The queen, the daughters. He sat up too fast and hissed in pain. His body protested sharply. Bandages wrapped his arm and side, glowing faintly with alien medical energy. A quiet hum filled the room. You should not move yet, a calm voice said. Elias turned his head. An alien medic stood nearby, thin and tall, holding a tablet of shifting symbols. Its eyes watched him carefully, not with hate but curiosity. I'm alive, Elias muttered. Yes, the medic replied. This confuses many. Elias gave a weak smile. I get that a lot. The medic tilted its head. You have internal damage, old injuries. You continued to walk anyway. Had reasons, Elias said. The medic paused. The royal daughters. Yes, the medic said nothing more. It finished its checks and stepped aside just as the doors opened. Two familiar figures rushed in. You're awake, the younger princess said, her skin brightening instantly. Before Elias could speak, both daughters were at his side. One took his hand carefully. The other pressed her forehead lightly against his arm, a Vyerk sign of relief. Easy, Elias said softly. You'll get me in trouble. You already are, the older one replied, but there was warmth in her tone. Behind them, the queen entered. She moved with controlled strength, her expression unreadable. Advisors followed her, stopping at the doorway. She raised a hand and they stayed back. How do you feel? She asked. Like I lost an argument with a gravity well, Elias replied. One advisor frowned. The queen almost smiled. You will stand today, she said. Not long, but long enough. Elias nodded. I can do that. She studied him for a moment. The council is divided. I figured, Elias said. They question your story, the queen continued. They question your motives. Some believe this is deception. That makes sense, Elias said calmly. The queen's eyes sharpened. Others fear you. He shrugged carefully. That also makes sense. They will test you, she said, with words, with pressure. I've been shot at more convincingly, Elias replied. The younger princess squeezed his hand. We'll speak, she said firmly. The queen looked down at her. You should not have to. We want to, the older one said. Silence passed between them. Very well, the queen said at last. Prepare him. The council chamber was massive. Its ceiling rose so high it vanished into light. Rings of floating platforms circled the center, each holding representatives of the great houses. Colors shifted across their skins as emotions stirred, anger, fear, suspicion. At the center stood a single platform. Elias stood there alone. No weapons, no restraints. He felt very small. The queen took her throne above them all, her daughters beside her. The chamber quieted slowly, like a storm holding its breath. Begin, the queen commanded. A tall counselor floated forward, its skin dark and sharp with hostility. This human stands accused of crossing sovereign borders, interference, and deception. Murmurs followed. The human war has cost us billions, another voice said. Now one stands at our heart. Elias listened without reacting. Explain, the first counselor demanded. Why should this creature live? The queen did not answer. She looked at Elias. He took a breath. I didn't come to argue politics, he said. I came to bring kids home. Laughter rippled through part of the chamber, harsh, dismissive. You expect us to believe sentiment from a human soldier, a counselor sneered. I expect nothing, Elias replied, but it's the truth. You could have traded them, another said, for power, for safety. Yes, Elias said, I could have. Then why didn't you? Elias looked up at the floating rings. Because they trusted me. Silence followed. Trust, a counselor repeated, tasting the word. A weak concept. Elias nodded. That's what we thought too before this war. Colors shifted. Unease spread. You claim to have fought mercenaries, the first counselor said. Alone. Yes. That is unlikely. Still happened, Elias replied. You expect us to accept this without proof. The queen raised a hand. Bring it, she said. A projection flared to life above the platform. Images filled the chamber. Broken jungle, burning wreckage, mercenaries moving through smoke, Elias' helmet feed. The chamber fell silent. They watched him fight, saw him bleeding, saw him carry the girls, saw him collapse and rise again. Saw him share water, wrap wounds, stand guard through the night. Some counselors turned away, some watched in horror. The recording ended. Silence stretched. You recorded your own suffering, a counselor said slowly. Habit, Elias replied. The first counselor's skin darkened. This proves endurance, not loyalty. Before Elias could respond, a small voice spoke. He never left us. The younger princess stepped forward, gasps echoed. He could have, she continued. Many times he chose not to. The older princess joined her. He stood between us and death, every time. A counselor snapped. You are children, the queen's voice cut through the chamber like steel. You will listen. The daughters spoke of nights hiding in silence, of hunger, of fear, of the human who stayed awake when they slept, who carried them when they cried, who told them stories when they thought they would die. Elias kept his eyes on the floor. When they finished, the chamber was still. A counselor shifted. Even so, it said, he is human. Yes, the queen replied, he is. Another counselor leaned forward. If humans are capable of this, then what else have we misunderstood? That question spread like fire. Anger followed. This is manipulation, someone shouted. A human trick. Suddenly, an alarm screamed. Red light flooded the chamber. Security breach, a voice cried. Elias reacted instantly. He moved. A hidden weapon unfolded from the platform edge, aimed directly at the queen. Before guards could react, Elias threw himself forward. The shot fired. Energy tore through the air. Elias felt it hit him in the back. Pain exploded. He crashed to the floor. Screams filled the chamber. Guards swarmed. The weapon was destroyed. The queen rose, fury blazing. Secure the chamber, she roared. The daughters rushed to Elias' side. No, no, stay with us, the younger one whispered. Elias struggled to breathe, his vision blurred. I told you, he gasped, forcing a weak smile, bad luck with meetings. The queen knelt beside him. You protected me, she said, disbelief in her voice. Habit, Elias whispered. Medical teams rushed in. The chamber watched in stunned silence as a human bled to save an alien queen. In that moment, something broke, and something else began to form. Not peace, not yet, but respect and fear, because the galaxy was learning a dangerous truth. Humans did not protect because they were ordered to. They protected because they chose to. Pain came and went in slow waves. Elias drifted between darkness and light. Sometimes he heard voices. Sometimes he felt hands pressing against his chest, his back, his arms. The air smelled sharp and clean like metal and rain. He's losing pressure. Stabilize the wound. Careful, his biology is different. He tried to speak, but nothing came out. Then warmth spread through him, steady and strong, and the pain pulled back like a tide. Elias opened his eyes. He was in another medical chamber larger than the last. Bright lines of energy moved through the walls, adjusting to his heartbeat. Tubes ran from his side into glowing devices. His chest felt heavy, but he was breathing. Alive. Again. "You refuse to die," a voice said. Elias turned his head slowly. The alien queen stood beside the bed. Her posture was rigid, her expression tightly controlled, but her eyes were sharp and awake. "People keep saying that," Elias said weakly. She watched him carefully. "You took a weapon strike meant for me." "Yeah," Elias replied. "Didn't seem polite to let it hit you." Silence followed. "That attack was planned," the queen said. "From within my own council." Elias frowned. "Figures. You changed the balance," she continued. "Not just emotionally, politically." "That wasn't the plan," Elias said. "I know," the queen replied. "That is what makes it dangerous." The doors opened softly. The daughters entered, moving quickly but carefully. Their skin brightened when they saw Elias awake. "You scared us," the younger one said, her voice shaking. "Sorry," Elias murmured. "Didn't mean to." "You always do that," the older one said. "Step in front." Elias smiled faintly. "Bad habit." They stood close, one on each side of the bed. The queen watched them, then looked back at Elias. "The council is in chaos," she said. "Some houses demand your execution more loudly than ever. Others demand your protection." "And you?" Elias asked. The queen was quiet for a long moment. "I have ruled by strength," she said. "Fear, control." She looked at her daughters. "That empire failed them." Elias said nothing. "You stood between my children and death," she continued. "Then you stood between me and death." "That's kind of my thing," Elias said. The queen exhaled slowly. "You are forcing my hand, human." "Sorry again." She ignored that. "If I let you die, you become a martyr. Humans will rage. Some of my own people will doubt me." "And if you let me live?" Elias asked. "You become a symbol," she said. "And symbols are dangerous." Elias met her gaze. "So what now?" Before she could answer, alarms chimed softly, different from before, controlled, official. An advisor's voice filled the room. "The High Council has invoked trial of judgment." Elias blinked. "That sounds bad." "It is old," the queen said. "Rare," the advisor continued. "They demand the human be judged before the empire." The queen's jaw tightened. "Denied." A pause. "They cite the assassination attempt," the advisor said carefully. "They claim his presence provokes instability." The queen's eyes flashed. "My presence provokes instability." Another pause. "They insist, or they will withdraw military support from the core fleets." Silence fell heavy. Elias closed his eyes for a moment. "Sounds like you're being cornered." "Yes," the queen said. He opened his eyes. "Then let me talk." The queen stared at him. "You can barely stand." "I can stand long enough," Elias replied. "Let me face them." "No," she said immediately. "If they think I'm a weapon, hiding me makes it worse," Elias said. "If they think I'm a threat, show them what I actually am." The younger princess looked up at her mother. "He's right." The older one nodded. "They won't listen to silence." The queen looked between them and Elias. Slowly, unwillingly, she nodded. "Prepare the broadcast," she said. The trial was not held in a chamber. It was held across the empire. Elias stood on a raised platform, supported by a discreet brace beneath his armor. The wound in his back burned, but he stayed upright. He had faced worse. Holographic projections of counselors filled the air around him. Millions watched through public feeds. "This human has destabilized our war," one voice declared. "He is manipulation in flesh," another said. Elias waited. The queen raised a hand. "He will speak." Silence fell. Elias took a breath. "I'm not here to defend humanity," he said. "We've done terrible things, so have you." Murmurs spread. "I'm not here to ask forgiveness," he continued. "I'm not here to end your war." He paused, steadying himself. "I'm here because two kids needed help." Images appeared of the crash site of the jungle of the daughters hiding in fear. I didn't know who they were, Elias said. I didn't care, a counselor scoffed. Convenient. Elias looked straight ahead. If they had been human kids, alien kids, anything, I would have done the same. Why? Another demanded. Elias answered without hesitation. Because someone once did it for me. The words rippled outward. I grew up on a burned colony, he said. Raiders hid it when I was small. I hid, someone found me. He swallowed. He carried me out, didn't know my name, didn't know my worth. Silence deepened. He died later, Elias said, but because of him I lived. The feeds showed the daughters watching him, eyes bright. So I paid it forward, Elias said simply. A counselor snapped, this is emotion, not policy. Elias nodded. You're right. He straightened, ignoring the pain. But emotion is why this war exists, he said. Fear, anger, loss. He looked up at the projections. You can kill me. Nothing changes. A pause. But if you let me live, Elias continued, you admit that the enemy you fear is capable of mercy. The council erupted in argument. Enough, the queen said. She stood, towering over the projections. This human saved my daughters, she declared. He saved me, her voice echoed across the empire. If that makes him a threat, then so be it. She turned to Elias. By royal decree, she said, you are placed under my protection. Gasps spread. You will not be executed, she continued. You will not be imprisoned. The council shouted in protest. And, the queen added, I will open negotiations with humanity. Chaos exploded. Elias closed his eyes, exhausted. Later, much later, he sat in a quiet chamber overlooking the city. The daughters sat with him, sharing food he barely touched. You changed everything, the younger one said softly. I didn't mean to, Elias replied. That's why it worked, the older one said. The doors opened. The queen entered alone. The empire is divided, she said. Some will resist. Yeah, Elias said. That tracks. But the war paused today, she continued. Because of you, Elias looked out at the city lights. Because of kids, he corrected. The queen studied him. You are free to leave when you recover, she said, or you may stay as an envoy. Elias smiled faintly. Never thought I'd hear that. She inclined her head. Neither did I. As she turned to leave, she paused. Human, she said. What will your people call this moment? Elias thought for a second. Probably luck, he said, or a miracle. The queen considered that. Outside, the stars watched in silence. The war was not over, but for the first time it was no longer inevitable. The morning sun touched the palace city of Vierx Prime with pale light. Elias Mercer sat on the balcony, wrapped in a simple blanket, his arm healing but still stiff. The daughters were beside him, playing quietly with small devices that made soft, glowing patterns on the floor. For the first time since he arrived, Elias allowed himself to feel calm. The war had paused, but the empire still simmered with tension. Counselors still argued, fleets still waited, spies still moved in shadow. Yet today the impossible had happened. A human had not only survived, he had changed the course of an empire. The queen entered quietly. She did not need to announce herself. Her presence filled the space immediately. You are awake, she said, her voice calm but commanding. Yes, Elias replied, still kicking. She looked at him thoughtfully. Your people will hear of this soon. Some will call you hero. Others will call you reckless. Reckless feels about right, Elias said. The younger princess looked up. Hero sounds better, she said softly. Elias smiled faintly at her. Then I'll take hero for today. The queen regarded them all. Because of you, the empire has paused. Because of you, many lives were spared that would have been lost. Elias shook his head. I didn't do it for that, I just did what was right for them. He gestured to the daughters. It wasn't hard. The older princess smiled. It was hard for him, she said. He got hurt. He didn't sleep. He ate less than us. He kept going even when he could have stopped. The queen's expression softened, though her eyes remained sharp. I underestimated humans, she admitted. Your endurance, your choices, even your morality surprises me. Elias shrugged, though it cost him a wince. "You're not the first to be surprised." She sat beside him, careful with her movements. "You've taught me something," she said. "That strength is not only weapons and fleets, it is courage, compassion, and consistency. Even an empire can learn from a single individual." Elias glanced at the daughters, then back at the queen. "It's a good thing they're small. One person can only do so much." The queen laughed softly. "Indeed, but one person can change perspective. That is power too." Outside, the city moved with life, unaware that the human standing in its heart had become more than a stranger or enemy. He had become a symbol. Later, the council convened. This time, Elias observed from a secure chamber beside the queen and her daughters. Counselors argued, debated, and accused, but the human story had already shifted the balance. Where once they had shouted for his death, now many spoke in cautious tones, asking questions instead of demanding punishment. "He did not lie," one counselor admitted reluctantly. "The recordings, his actions. He saved the princesses." "Yes," the queen said, "and he did not demand reward. He did not act for ambition or gain. He acted for life itself." Arguments continued, but the momentum had changed. The war paused. Fleets returned to bases. Plans for attacks and invasions were delayed as leaders reconsidered the consequences of their actions. Elias watched silently. He did not feel pride. He felt relief. Exhaustion still weighed heavily on him. The daughters ran to him after the council meeting, giggling, waving small devices that projected colorful lights. "Look what I made," the younger one shouted, her skin flickering with excitement. Elias laughed softly, leaning back against the chair. "It's beautiful." "You saved us," the older one said. "We can do anything now." "No," Elias said quietly. "You don't need me to do everything. You need to keep being brave. You need to trust yourselves." The queen watched the exchange, her expression unreadable for a moment. Then she spoke. "You will return to your people," she said to Elias. "The humans will call for you, they will celebrate you, they may even fear you." Elias looked down at his hands. "I don't need celebration, I just want them safe." "They will be," the queen said firmly. "Because you have shown that humans are capable of things no one believed possible." The daughters clung to him briefly, then released him. Their skin shimmered with joy, relief, and pride. Elias exhaled. "Time to go home, I guess." The queen nodded. "You will be escorted. Your journey will be safe. Your story will spread." And it did. Ships left Viewer's Prime carrying a human back to Earth. Messages spread faster than light. A human had infiltrated the heart of the Viewer's empire, survived impossible danger, protected alien royalty, and forced an entire empire to reconsider its views of humanity. On Earth, leaders received the news with astonishment. Scientists, soldiers, and civilians alike marveled at the human's courage. Stories of bravery, endurance, and moral strength circulated quickly, inspiring a generation. Humans were no longer only survivors or fighters. They were protectors, innovators, and symbols of resilience. Back on Viewer's Prime, the queen watched her daughters play, her thoughts heavy but calmer than before. The empire had changed. Fleets would still patrol. Policies would still enforce borders, but hearts and minds had shifted. One human had reminded her of a truth she had almost forgotten. Life and courage were stronger than fear. The daughters approached her. "Mother," the younger one said, "he really is amazing." "Yes," the older one added. "He didn't even ask for thanks." The queen's eyes softened. "No, he didn't, and that is why he mattered." That evening, the queen sent a message to the humans acknowledging Elias' deeds. It was simple, formal, and filled with weight. She praised his courage, his integrity, and his choices. And she promised that peace talks would continue, influenced by the actions of one human who had stood alone. Elias returned to Earth a hero in the quietest way possible. He did not seek attention. He did not demand honors. He simply told the truth. He had protected 2 children, and the human choice was simple. Courage and compassion mattered more than victory or fear. In the following weeks, news outlets and officials marveled. Earth and the Vierks Empire opened talks. Treaties were proposed, trade agreements discussed, and slowly, a tentative hope spread across the stars. But Elias never forgot the faces of the daughters or the quiet strength of the queen. Theirs was a story he had been a part of, but it was also a reminder. One person could shift the course of empires. One human could make the impossible happen, and the galaxy would never underestimate humanity again. Years later, when peace held, the daughters returned to Earth with the queen. They visited the places Elias had grown up and they walked beside him. People marveled at the aliens, but Elias smiled quietly. "They're my friends," he said, "and they always will be." The queen observed from behind, a faint smile on her face. She had learned something that no battle could teach. Trust, courage, and mercy were not weaknesses. They were strength. And in the human she had seen it in its purest form. The stars twinkled above them, endless and patient. The galaxy stretched in all directions, full of conflict, full of fear, full of unknowns. But for the first time there was hope. Hope born not from fleets or weapons, but from a single human who chose to stand for what was right. And that choice had changed everything. The daughters laughed, Elias smiled, and the queen simply watched. The empire, the humans, the galaxy itself, they would remember this moment forever. Because one human had shown that courage, compassion, and action could shift the fate of worlds. And in the universe, nothing is stronger than a human who refuses to give up on life, hope, or the innocent. The war was not over. Challenges would come again. But the story of Elias Mercer, the human who returned alien royalty to their mother and stood unbroken in the face of death, would live across the stars. A reminder that humanity, when tested, could rise above fear, above doubt, and above the expectations of even the oldest empires. And that was how the human changed the galaxy, not with weapons but with heart.